And welcome in to Wheelhouse, your Elevation 5280 Sports and Lifestyle. As every Sunday, we are live with you Sunday mornings, and lots to get to this morning as we have a special guest host filling in for Matt this morning. It is Greg Johnson. Greg, how are we this morning? You might have to take yourself off mute there. There you
go. I'm doing well, Mike. How are you doing?
Good. Another busy sports weekend. The baseball season is officially over. We'll put our final thoughts on the World Series. We'll get into this very mixed thoughts about the NBA midseason tournament. A lot of people mixed feelings about it, and we'll get into that. And then what's going on in the NBA season, as well as Week 9 in the NFL is here. We do have a game across the pond in London right now, as the Steelers are taking on the Miami Dolphins.
The Chiefs
are taking on the Miami Dolphins, and the Chiefs have a 7-0 lead right now over Miami. So both of those teams 6-2 heading into that game. So, it's not in London; it's in Germany. I don't know where I am right now. So that game is over in Germany. They're calling it the NFL Frankfurt Games, apparently. So this is the one of the first games in Germany as part of the international series for the NFL. So interesting to see if they expand. I know there's Mexico, London, and now Germany. So we'll see what good old Roger has in store for a lot of these games. I know he was automatically shut down, Greg, when he mentioned let's play a Super Bowl in London, and he emphatically got shut down for that. So,
London is closer to Charlotte, North Carolina than Seattle is to Charlotte, North Carolina. So,
crazy. So we will see what happens there. We will get into NFL here in a bit. World Series, Greg, it's over. Texas Rangers win their first title ever. And when I first heard that, kind of at the beginning of these playoffs, Greg, I was like, wow, I guess Texas has never won a World Series with all the great players they've had in the past. Maybe they should have won that St. Louis series back in 2011.
They got freezed.
Yeah, they kind of gave that one away in the David Freese series, and guys like Nolan Ryan on that team and stuff like that. So kind of hard to imagine that they haven't won, but they do win their first World Series. Greg, I know a lot of people said this is going to be a boring World Series, and remember, everyone thought the NBA Finals this last year was going to be a boring series between Denver and Miami. Turns out it was one of the most watched NBA Finals in recent years. But this Texas and Arizona World Series, Greg, actually did have low numbers for a World Series. But what was your initial thoughts on Arizona and Texas?
I mean, as a fan of baseball and a fan of underdogs, I enjoyed the matchup, but I did want the series to extend and go 6 or 7. After the first game, I think the first game was such a classic back-to-back battle where Arizona, had the lead in the ninth. It was tied up by Corey Seager in the ninth, and then obviously the walk-off by Garcia. After that game, I thought, man, this is going to be a great World Series. But Arizona got the next game, and it was tied 1-1. And it's crazy if that game won, if Arizona had actually closed that out and actually held on to win, I think we're looking at a totally different series. It would have been 2-0 Arizona going back to Arizona. But instead, it was 1-1 with momentum, for the most part, in Texas's favor because they were just outmatched. Like, Texas was just a better team from top to bottom. And you could tell once they got back to Arizona, Arizona's pitching definitely caught up to them. But I was excited to see two teams that were totally different. First time since 2016 that the Astros nor the Dodgers were in the World Series.
Yeah, so good to see at least some kind of parity happening in baseball without those two teams in it. Yeah, in Texas, first championship. Arizona, first time in the World Series since 2001, where they won Game 7.
It was built to last, too. They got young core, and, as Rockies fans, we're shaking our head. We're like, and this could easily be us if we just had better ownership.
Yeah. I mean, I think I saw, Greg, the average age of the Arizona Diamondbacks are like 24. Some
Yeah.
crazy
And-
low number, young team.
If you think about it, too, 2 years ago, both these teams had over 100 losses.
Yeah. So quick turnarounds for both of those teams. So once again, congratulations to the Texas Rangers. Did you see their parade? They had like 500,000 people.
A lot of people.
Yeah, they had 500,000 people at their parade, and it was good. See, they need to do these stuff on Fridays, Greg, because more people can go. Look at Texas had their parade on Fridays, and they were able to go. So there you go. All right, so yeah, Texas Rangers win.
Mike,
What's that?
I said, thanks for rubbing it in.
What do you mean?
It's the reason I couldn't go to the Nuggets parade.
Oh, was that on a Friday? That was like on a Thursday.
But I couldn't go.
Oh yeah. See, that's what I mean, though. They need to have the stuff on Fridays.
I know.
All right. So yeah, and then look, it's already like 140 days, Greg, till opening day. So if you follow baseball on any social media, they're already counting down for opening day, and it's already fast approaching as we wrap up the World Series here. Speaking of tournaments and championships, Greg, the NBA started their mid-season tournament for the rights to the NBA Cup. Kind of a if I have issues with any of this, Greg, it's the name of the cup.
What's the name of the cup?
NBA Cup. That's what it's called. Like you can't call it. You can't think of something better.
You should name it after like Kobe or something. Even though I don't think Kobe would be a fan of the in-season tournament.
I don't know. So all of these players whine and complain about playing so much, load management, and then they start this mid-season tournament. And at the end of November, Greg, pretty much the NBA season itself is going to be put on hold for almost 2 weeks to finish up this NBA mid-season tournament in Vegas, which I guess is kind of cool. And, you have this group play, which the home team changes their court around. Some of the courts are pretty cool. And then you have new City Edition jerseys in which you will be wearing for these games. I have a question. Why doesn't the away team wear their City Edition jersey if it's these games? Because when the Nuggets played the Mavericks just wore their regular old uniforms. Why did they wear their new City? Is it just the home teams? It's weird.
That's my guess. But also, I think a lot of the new City Editions this year are dark jerseys. So maybe they don't have the dark jerseys or the light jerseys, excuse me. And that's why they can't. I don't know. It beats me, man. But
yeah. So what's your initial thoughts on this mid-season tournament and this group play, which is different from obviously the regular season? So if you win a mid-season tournament group play game, it doesn't go obviously towards your regular season record. So what's your overall initial thoughts? What did you first think of when you heard the news that this is going to happen? And I guess just, your overall opinion about it.
As an old school sports fan, I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm definitely one of those guys who, only one team should get a trophy, and the only trophy that should be is who wins the championship at the end of the season, right? So, to me, the midseason tournament is a way to get fans more engaged, to make more money, and I get it from a business perspective and aspect of it. Sure. Is it a fun idea to try? Yes, of course. Obviously, people are talking about it and paying attention to it. As much as I can't stand those colored courts, people are talking about those too. It definitely just feels off and feels odd. It feels almost like a European basketball league. I was thinking about this the other day. It kind of reminds me in college basketball how they have those holiday tournaments, and then the CU Buffs won the Maui Invitational, something like that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because the only thing that matters is that you win the championship, the Larry O'Brien Trophy at the end of the season.
Right. Now you have the chance to win the NBA Cup, which, again, think of a better name for that, and then we can start talking. But there are some perks for, and I'm trying to look it up on the fly here. I know the winning team, whoever wins the NBA Cup, wins I want to say the players individually on the winning team win like an extra $500,000 or something like that, like a $500,000 bonus. I want to say the number is so crazy
money. it's definitely a money grabber, and it's definitely an attention getter. And I think your common day fan nowadays, you know, are going to get into that. You know, the younger generation is. I work with youth, and our kids love that. You know, they're like, "Hey, you watch that game, see that court." You know, yeah. So.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how it works out. Obviously, it's an inaugural year of this NBA Cup, so it'll be fascinating to see what happens. And then the games obviously shift to Vegas towards the end of this month for rights in it, and it's even they even have a losers bracket, Greg, for the teams that don't make it out of group play. So everyone gets Capri Suns and orange slices, even if you lose. So we have that to look forward to as well, and jerseys, Greg. I know some of the teams have worn. They have new City Edition jerseys. Again, another reason to just make up new jerseys. I know they come out with new City Edition jerseys every year, but it's just another excuse to show merchandise and stuff like that. Because you release a new City Edition jersey, Greg, and that means hats go with it, hoodies go with it, shirts go with it, shorts, pants, everything just goes with whatever new stuff comes out every single year. But obviously, locally here in Denver, a lot of mixed feelings on the Nuggets new City Edition jersey. I will say they are pretty sharp in person, but looking at them like online, if you were to order one, they're kind of funky, but in person they are a lot better. What is your thoughts on some of the jerseys that have come out this year?
Yeah. At first, I wasn't a fan. When I first looked at them, I didn't like the way the dark blend of the jersey was. I thought it was too dark with the 5280. I thought you couldn't really see it at first, but it's growing on me a little bit. I do like dark jerseys in general, or darker, and I do like the 5280. I wish the mountains were a little bit lighter so we could see them a little bit better. But overall, I do like them. I like them better compared to a lot of the other teams.
Yeah, and a lot of people saying, a part of some Nuggets group saying it looks incomplete, looks like a 12-year-old created it. Why doesn't it? Yeah, why does it's just a lot of people saying it's boring. And I went on different other team sites when they I guess did the release of these City Edition jerseys. A lot of people saying it doesn't look finished, it looks boring, it looks like my first grader designed it and stuff like that. So a lot of mixed feelings, not only about jerseys and everything as a whole. I did order a hat, by the way. The hat's pretty cool. And just a lot of mixed feelings about this whole thing. So I guess when this whole thing is over, we will see if it comes back next year. But again, going back to load management and playing, these are extra games, Greg. And I don't know if you heard what Steph Curry said yesterday. He said, I'm done with resting. He goes, I want the whole load, which means he said he's planning to play all 82 games this year. And I don't know if that's necessarily his decision. Obviously, front office and coaching might say, hey, we're on our third back-to-back in a week and a half, and we're going from Charlotte to Portland. Like, yeah, you're not playing this game. So I don't know how much players have to say about that. But anyway, this just adds more games, and I know the Players Association had to agree to this, Greg. So it's not like they sprung this on the players. Everyone had to agree to this as a whole. So we'll see if it comes back next year.
Yeah, it's a good point. But, in this day and age, with the resources that these athletes have, the doctors, the resources that help them take care of their bodies on a daily basis, there should be no issue when it comes to load management, especially if you're not injured. The only reason you should be sitting out a game is if you're injured. And even then, if it's a minor injury, there's so many athletes back in the day who played through a lot of injuries, right? And they get paid millions of dollars to do this. This is their job. It'd be like you and I waking up tomorrow morning and like, you know what? I don't feel. I feel like it's gonna burn me out if I don't go to work tomorrow. So I'm just not gonna show up. Load management, like, and you better save me for the rest of the year. I mean, come on, give me a break.
Yeah, and I will feel that way tomorrow. So that's
but we're going to work because that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, that I will tell you that 3:15 a.m. alarm clock comes pretty quick.
Yeah.
Every single night. So that's how I feel every morning getting up, Greg. But like you said, I don't know. They're adding more games, obviously, and then not only that, when the regular playoffs show up, Greg, that's almost another 2 months of games. So yeah, I don't want to hear any whining or complaining about load management because everyone agreed to this. So it's not like, again, this was a surprise. This not only was announced in June or July, but this had to have been in talks last year, or I don't know how long ago, when the NBA Players Association and the league or commissioner or whoever draws up these ideas. Again, it wasn't a surprise for these players. So a lot of them are embracing it. A lot of them say it's stupid. Again, there's just mixed feelings from fans and players alike. So we will see what happens and if it returns next year. Only thing, Greg, I have a complaint about is the name of the cup. It sounds like a soccer type thing. This whole tournament has honestly has a soccer feel to it.
Yeah.
Because it's called group play. You win a cup. I don't know. Just the kind of the names need to maybe be a little bit more unique.
No, I agree. Yeah, but you name it after a player, like a former player. That would be kind of my first choice. But we'll see what they do.
Yeah, because the NBA. The MVP trophy is that the Kobe trophy now? The NBA MVP?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know.
I think it is. I think they did rename it, or the NBA Finals MVP. One of the MVP trophies is named after Kobe now.
The name.
One of them is, I want to say the NBA Finals MVP is the Bill Russell Award, but I'm not. I think
NBA Cup after one of the first great European players, just because it's got like you said, a soccer European feel. Name it, the Tony Kukoc
Cup. The Pau Gasol trophy.
The Dirk trophy.
There you go. The Nowitzki Cup.
Hey, that's got a good ring to it.
By the way, I was kind of kicking this watching the World Series because that USA Olympic track guy or track and field guy, whoever got mad that the NBA calls it world champions. I was wondering, I was sitting there watching the World Series. I was like, I wonder if that Olympic dude is mad at the name of the World Series.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same concept, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the worlds aren't playing each other. Why is it the World Series?
Play in America overall, especially when we're talking about those sports. Maybe not hockey, maybe not soccer, but when it comes to baseball, I mean, granted, baseball, actually, they have some really good players from other countries, but in the major leagues, you take the best major league team, and they would probably beat any other baseball team that has ever been formed currently.
Yeah, and I think I read or saw that actually baseball, MLB, has the most diverse sport.
100%.
Out of all, including soccer, everything in the U.S. So
they have players from. Obviously you get some from the DR, Colombia, Cuba, in that region of the world. But then you get from Japan. You get some from Canada, Russia. All kinds. Australia. Yeah.
Basically every country that has a World Baseball Classic team, all those players, not all of them, but majority of those players are on MLB teams, just like, all the NBA players that play in the NBA go and scatter out to their respective home countries. So
right.
I was thinking about that. I was like, I wonder if that dude is mad at the name of the World Series, but we didn't hear from him. So I'm assuming he got turned off or didn't watch. Maybe he was one of those guys who says this would be a boring World Series. I'm not going to watch.
Yeah.
So could have been. All right. We will check on the NBA midseason tournament as these group play games are scattered throughout this month. So, and then the, I don't even know what they're calling it. I don't even know what because you have the first round, second round. I don't even know what they're calling thing itself, I guess. But hey, that's whatever they need to think of better names. Maybe obviously this is the inaugural year. Maybe they'll come up with better names for all this stuff. But the finals, I guess, for this in-season tournament will be in Vegas. So I guess that'll be fun. Score update: it is still 7-0 Chiefs over Miami. Just under 12 minutes to go, by the way, in that second quarter. So we're keeping an eye on that for you as well. Speaking of the NFL, Week 9 games, Greg, this is an interesting week because this is kind of where the tide shifts. You know, we're 9 games into the season, over halfway. It's weird saying halfway now because there's 17 games. I don't like the odd number of games. But yeah, it's just it throws me off. And then you say, it's week 10 or whatever. You're like, man, we got 7 weeks left. I'm just like, why does it have to be an odd number? I hate odd numbers. You know, I'm one of those guys, Greg, where you turn the radio and if it lands on like a 13, I have to round it up to 15 on the volume. I have to have that. I know 15 is an odd number, but I have to have that. Increments of 5 is my go-to. So
I was gonna say because my top 3 numbers are 3, 5, and 7, then followed by 2.
Yeah. So they I don't know. It's just weird. So we'll run through the Week 9 of NFL games here, kind of give you our picks for these games and also some fantasy implications as well. I know the Chiefs and Dolphins have already started, and then Thursday night was did you watch that Thursday night game? Kind of an interesting game, 20-16 Titans. Titans may have found something in their young quarterback.
I saw some highlights. Yeah, he's definitely got some growing to do for sure. I do like him better than Tannehill and who's the other quarterback that
was it Malik Willis?
Yeah, he shouldn't even be a quarterback, man. The dude can't throw a ball to save his life. But no, he's got a lot of upside. So it'd be interesting to see how he finishes off the season. But credit to the Steelers, man. They were kind of an afterthought after the last few weeks, and a lot of people wrote them off. But they came to play, and Mike Tomlin, man, he coaches his guys up, man, gets them ready. So that's a team that has so much talent around the ball. I just don't know if Kenny Pickett's the answer there.
Yeah, his hands are too small, so I don't know if he can overcome small hands. So
is that a thing, or are you just like saying that?
No, that was the issue in the combine when they how they do hand measurements.
Yeah,
which is the stupidest thing ever. I guess it matters if you're a quarterback, but yeah, they said he had small hands.
He doesn't handle the ball as well.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, he just doesn't have full grip of the ball. All I can imagine is a full-grown adult male in a football jersey and then super small hands. That's all I can picture. Little baby hands, I guess.
Envision like a character. You make the you can do those glitches with in Madden. You can make someone like 7 foot tall cornerback. And
yeah, super small hands.
Run 99 speed.
And then he just has super small hands. I don't know. So I guess that was the issue for him coming into the league was his hand size. So keep an eye on Kenny Pickett over there. Although the Steelers right now 5-3, so they're in the thick of things when it comes to playoff scenarios. All right, diving into these games, early morning games. We'll start out with a barn burner here as the 2-6 Chicago Bears head into the 4-4 New Orleans Saints. And Justin Fields did practice this week, so I don't know where he lies, but it seems like I don't want to say they found something in their young quarterback, D2 guy, but I don't know, Greg. This is weird because a lot of people are already saying Bears should take a quarterback in the first round. I've seen some mock drafts that say Caleb Williams going to the Bears, which means Justin Fields would obviously be on his way out. Obviously, that play style, the only person that kind of has been getting away with it is Lamar Jackson. But even Lamar Jackson tries to pass first, and he's obviously had his share of injuries over the last couple of years. So, and also holding out for a better contract, which he did get. Now he's balling out of control out there in Baltimore. So I don't know what the Bears do here, Greg, because it is definitely an interesting situation with their quarterback. He's not listed on the injury report anymore, so I'm assuming he's good to go. Nobody really on the Saints injury report except for Kendre Miller, one of the running backs. But, with Alvin Kamara back, he's going to get the bulk of the carries. David Carr, still weird to see him in a – Derek Carr, still weird to see him in a – I don't know, I got David Carr. He's just as bad, I guess. And
it was worse.
It's weird to see Derek Carr in a Saints uniform still, and now the Raiders are doing the same thing to Jimmy G, forcing him out, which is reasonable because Jimmy G's play has not been up to par, even for the Raiders. We'll get into the Raiders as they basically fire everybody, including Jimmy G. So this game, Greg, obviously New Orleans is a 9.5-point favorite at home. Again, Bears are a mess right now. Bears are taking a page out of the White Sox and just sucking it up right now. So I'm going to go with the Saints at home.
Yeah, same. You can move on about that game. That game's not that exciting, but the Saints are much better, and the Saints are definitely should win that division and make the playoffs. So, give me Saints 9.5.
Fantasy implications. One player on the Bears I do like is DJ Moore. He has 5 touchdowns. But again, with this quarterback switch, I'm not sure how much he's going to be.
I also don't against those corners for the Saints. The Saints have a good secondary. So,
yeah. So, Bears are coming off a loss against the Chargers 30-13. They did beat the Raiders 30-12. So they've altered wins and losses throughout the year as they fall at 2-6 against Saints 4-4 as we both go with the Saints in this one. Good matchup here between the 5-2 Seahawks and the 6-2 aforementioned Baltimore Ravens. Ravens are a 6.5-point favorite at home. Geno Smith, I don't know if he's coming back down to earth just a little bit, Greg. He's thrown for 1,600 yards, 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Walker, their running back, has 6 touchdowns on the ground. Pretty good on the ground. Lamar, obviously, 1,700 yards passing, 9 passing touchdowns, throw in 3 rushing touchdowns as well. So fantasy, I think Lamar is always going to be a start when it comes to your fantasy leagues. Gus Edwards, 5 touchdowns on the ground. Pretty good there. Zay Flowers, the young wide receiver, 1 touchdown through the air. And obviously DK Metcalf, 2 touchdowns through the air. This is an interesting one for me, Greg. Usually when teams come in and, similar records, looking good throughout the season and almost identical records, it's usually like a coin flip game for me. And usually when I flip a coin, it kind of lands on the home team. I know Baltimore is almost a touchdown favorite in this one. I don't know, Greg. I'm kind of leaning Seattle on this one, but my gut is telling me Baltimore. So I'll go with the Ravens at home.
Yeah, this one's a tough one as well. The Seahawks honestly got lucky last week against Cleveland. That's another team, Cleveland, who a lot of talent around the ball, but really, the quarterback's kind of the question there. But no, I think if it was in Seattle, I would definitely take probably the Seahawks. But Baltimore might be playing as good as any team in the league right now, and I think they're really hitting their stride. So I like them to cover as well. I think Seattle will keep it close, but I think Baltimore pulls away at the end.
All right, so we both have Baltimore in that one. Another early game here, the 1-7 who might get the first pick there as they might be searching for a quarterback. The Arizona Cardinals head into the just mentioned Cleveland.
Who's their starting quarterback now? They just traded away Dobbs to Minnesota.
Yeah, his name is, let me look it up here, Tune? Clayton Tune? Yeah. Couldn't
Never heard of the guy.
Yeah, God knows who this is. He went to Houston. That's all we got. So there you go. And obviously you have Massage Parlor on the other side, Deshaun Watson, who's thrown for 6. He's missed a couple games in there. Again, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Connor, 2 touchdowns on the ground for the Cardinals, and Hollywood Brown, 4 touchdowns through the air, 416 yards receiving. The ever steady Amari Cooper is your leading receiver for the Cleveland Browns, and Ford is the Browns' leading receiver, obviously, with the injury to Nick Chubb. It is going to be Ford, and not really much of Kareem Hunt. Haven't really seen him in the highlights, so I don't know if him and Watson are frequenting those parlors out there in Cleveland, but there you go. Cleveland is a heavy favorite at home, Greg, 12.5-point favorite. I guess we neglected to mention the trade deadline that went down on Halloween last week. Obviously, Josh Dobbs, the previous starting quarterback for the Cardinals, he gets traded to Minnesota to replace Kirk Cousins, who tore his Achilles last week. So he is no longer the quarterback. So I think Arizona, I don't know what they're doing with Kyler Murray, Greg. The new Call of Duty comes out this week, so I'm sure he's going to be busy playing that. So I think they'll be searching for a quarterback in the draft.
Oh, yes. I think Arizona's probably going to get the top pick. And in the way it's shaping up, I think they're planning on that. And that's probably why they're not going to play Kyler Murray this year. Yeah, I don't see Arizona. I think they've competed. Like, they've battled, they covered spreads, but they just don't have enough talent to match up with anyone really. The fact that they beat Dallas is absolutely hysterical. But no, I'm leaning Cleveland 12.5, but 12.5 is a lot of points in the NFL, and Cleveland hasn't been like beating people by a ton, so. My gut goes with Cleveland, but I will not be shocked if Arizona at least covers the spread.
Yeah, and on the injury report, if you're wondering about fantasy, I'm not touching anyone in these fantasy matchups between Arizona and Cleveland. But if you are, DeMarco, the running back for Arizona, is out. That came through a couple days ago. Michael Wilson is questionable. The wide receiver, obviously, Kyler Murray is still on the PUP list, so stay away from him. David Bell, wide receiver for Cleveland, he is out. And that's about it for on the offensive side of things for both of these teams.
I was going to say, you can start Cleveland's defense and get some good points.
There you go. And if you're wondering, Cleveland's defense, they have a couple people on the injury report. Greg Newsome, the second, he is out, and Alex Wright, their defensive end, is out. So I don't know how much that affects. Cleveland defenses, by the way, is only owned by 36% of ESPN Fantasy League. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But against Cardinals, you could, like you just said, Greg, get some points out of that one. All right, Buccaneers head into Houston Buccaneers. Both of these teams actually are 3-4 heading in. Houston is a 3-point favorite at home in this one. C.J. Stroud started the season off really hot for the Texans, 9 touchdowns. He just threw his first interception a few weeks ago, so he was going a few weeks without an interception. 1,800 yards already on the season for the young guy. Pierce is out for Houston. Their mainstay at running back. He only has 1 touchdown on the season. Collins has 3 touchdowns through the air. Baker on the season actually having a decent season, Greg. 1,600 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. 2 of those came last week in the loss. White is your leading running back for the Buccaneers. 1 touchdown on the ground. Mike Evans, 500 passing yards, 5 touchdowns through the air. Injury report is all clear for the Tampa offense. And on the Houston side of things, obviously I just said Dameon Pierce is out, Robert Woods is out, and Brevin Jordan, their tight end, is out. Dameon Pierce is owned by 61% of ESPN leagues. Robert Woods is owned by 67% of ESPN leagues. That's almost a high number, I would have think, for Robert Woods. But
yeah,
Brevin Jordan is only owned by 17% of ESPN fantasy leagues. This is a coin flip game for me. And again, I normally go with the home team on coin flip games, Greg, but I'm going to go with Tampa on the road. I think they're going to be coming in a little bit angry. They're coming on a 3-game losing streak, Greg. They lost to Detroit, Atlanta, and Buffalo. I think this is a winnable game for Tampa, and I think they're going to be coming in pissed off. So I'm going to go with Tampa on the road in this one.
Yeah, I agree. I like Tampa +3. Tampa really battled Buffalo last week. I know if it weren't for the Chris Godwin just like watching the ball go right past him in the Hail Mary, who knows what would have happened in that game. They would have won that game. So I like I like Tampa Bay in that game as well. Even though I do like what DeMarco Ryans has done with Houston, they're much more improved. Obviously, C.J. Stroud obviously should be in the running to be Rookie of the Year, and I'm really impressed with him too, his poise and yeah. So I do have Nico Collins in fantasy, and he's been a good third wide receiver for me as well.
All right, so we both agree on Tampa on the road. Another NFC matchup here. The 4-4 Minnesota Vikings head into the 4-4 Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta 3.5-point favorite at home, and that number probably went up after Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles last week. Obviously, Cousins is your leading passer for the Vikings. 2,300 yards already, 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and somehow the Vikings are still 4-4. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is on IR, so you do not want to start him, obviously. Jalen Naylor is questionable. He's another wide receiver who's getting some playing time for the Vikings. He's questionable. That came down yesterday, so he's a game-time decision. Everyone healthy except for Drake London is out. That came down the other day for the Falcons. So Drake London is only owned by 31% of ESPN Fantasy League, so I don't know how much that affects your day-to-day fantasy leagues. Mattinson is your leading rusher for the Vikings, Greg, but he has no touchdowns on the season. Desmond Ridder, 6 interceptions, 6 touchdowns, 1,700 yards. He's only owned by 47% of ESPN leagues, so he's not up there when it comes to starting in fantasy. Robinson, 466 yards on the ground, 1 touchdown, and again, just mentioned London is your leading receiver for the Falcons, and he is out, and he is owned by 62% of ESPN fantasy leagues. This normally would be a coin flip game for me, Greg, and I think it became a coin flip game, especially without Kirk Cousins. Otherwise, I'd be picking Minnesota on the road. Josh Dobbs is going to be your starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. As we just said, he was traded at the deadline from Arizona to Minnesota. I'm going to go with Falcons at home in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree here with you. I like the way Minnesota has been playing, even without Kirk Cousins. They got a lot of weapons offensively. I love that rookie wide receiver Addison. I think he could be the next big stud wide receiver that we see in the next couple of years. I like KJ Osborne's done a really good job too. It doesn't really matter who you really plug in at quarterback there. And I wouldn't be shocked if Josh Dobbs actually comes in by halftime as well. Also, it's more Atlanta for me. This whole season, I feel like they just find ways to lose, find ways to choke, and or they're playing teams that they should be beating by like 10, and they barely squeak by. I think there's a lot of coaching issues there. You could tell by the sideline there's a lot of confusion. I do not like Desmond Ridder. I think he's just there to kind of fill in until they find a true quarterback. And Drake London is really good, and him being out is gonna. If Kyle Pitts doesn't step up, they're in trouble. So, but look for him in fantasy. I think Kyle Pitts will have a much better day. And they need to get that rookie running back established. I don't know what's been going on with Robinson, but the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks for that matter, he's been off, and I have him in fantasy as well.
All right, so we differ on that one. I take Atlanta, and Greg takes Minnesota. Another NFC matchup here: the 3-5 LA Rams head into the 2-5 Green Bay Packers. It seems like both of these teams are just. I think the Packers are struggling to find their identity now without Aaron Rodgers, and the Rams are just trying to hang on for dear life. A lot of aging players. Matthew Stafford, this just came down the other day. He is questionable. He's going to be a game-time decision. Stafford on the season, 2,000 yards passing, 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. So say what you will about that. Williams, their running back, 6 touchdowns on the season. He's one of the leading touchdown runners on the season in the NFL. And, of course, Puka. How about Puka? 2 touchdowns and almost 800 yards through the air.
Puka playing though?
What's
today?
that?
Well, one, Williams is out. He's on the IR. And then is Puka playing?
Yeah, he is. He's questionable. That just came down this morning. So him and Stafford are questionable in this one. I think I saw that Brett Rippon is starting, although Matthew Stafford was actually elevated from doubtful to questionable yesterday. And I saw that Brett Rippon, our former homeboy here, he was going to be starting, but I guess Matthew Stafford started to feel better. I don't know. I would just stay away from any of that. And again, Puka is questionable, and that came down this morning as well. So look for, I guess, Brett Rippon to be starting. Obviously, you have Cooper Kupp back. He's trying to adjust himself back into the lineup as well. I think both of these teams are a mess right now, Greg, when it comes to anything fantasy. Puka is obviously he from week one, Greg, he went from 13% owned in ESPN fantasy leagues to 89% owned in ESPN fantasy leagues last week. So kind of crazy shift in numbers there. Jordan Love on the season, 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. A.J. Dillon, 266 yards, 1 touchdown on the ground. And Reed is your leading receiver for Green Bay, 3 touchdowns through the air. Just because of the I guess the injury mess for the Rams, Greg, I'm going to go with Green Bay at home in this one. They are a 3.5-point favorite, by the way.
Yeah. I think Green Bay's built better for the future because they're younger. But when it comes to today, I'm taking head coaching. And, well, I guess if Stafford is playing, I'm definitely taking head coaching and quarterback play over as my pick. But if Stafford doesn't play, I still am leaning on the Rams. I think Sean McVay's just a better coach than LaFleur. And I think they're a team that I think going into the season knew they're in a rebuild, but the Packers thought maybe Jordan Love could actually do something, and he hasn't, and it's been disappointing. So I like the Rams to actually cover the spread. I think it's going to be low scoring. I will say look out for Aaron Jones to have a much better day. Supposedly, he had a really good week at practice, and he's fully healthy as opposed to last week. He wasn't 100% but still played. So I think Aaron Jones could have a big week fantasy wise. But that's the only player that I would actually start this unless Puka's healthy.
Right. So we will see what happens with all that. Another matchup of teams kind of struggling to get their footing this season, the 3-5. By the way, I always showed this picture when when these coaches match up against each other, Greg. How about that? There's Matt LaFleur, quarterbacks coach for the Commanders back in 2013, and Sean McVay, the tight ends coach back then. And that was back when Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator for his dad. And now all these teams came from the same coaching tree. So they'll be off today.
It's the Mike Shanahan coaching tree.
Yeah. So still going strong there for LaFleur and Sean McVay. All right, the 3-5 just mentioned the Commanders going into the 2-6 New England Patriots. Greg, it's weird saying the Patriots are 2-6. Mac Jones again. Is he officially benched? Do we know this?
I don't think so.
Well, if he isn't, he should be. So, but he's still your leading passer. His number went down, Greg. He wasn't that high in ESPN fantasy leagues.
Because their backups horrible too. Like, you can't really bench a guy for someone who's worse.
Well, I guess you're benching him to see what you have, apparently. But Mac Jones, 1,600 yards, 9 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He was only owned by 71% of fantasy leagues. It has dropped all the way to 16% in ESPN fantasy leagues. So he's not even a tier 2 guy, backup guy, anything if you have injuries or bye weeks. So keep that in mind as well. Sam Howell, I don't know how many people expected this from him. 2,100 yards, 13 touchdowns, 8 interceptions through the air for the Commanders. Bijan Robinson, 384 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. Brian Robinson, 4 touchdowns on the ground. Stevenson is your leading rusher for the Patriots, 2 touchdowns. Terry McLaurin, 2 touchdowns through the air, and Kendrick Bourne, 4 touchdowns for the New England Patriots. Everyone's pretty healthy on both of these teams offensively. Curtis Samuel, the wide receiver for the Commanders, is out. And Thornton is questionable, wide receiver for the Patriots. Other than that, everyone's pretty much healthy. Both of these teams. New England is a 3-point favorite at home. Greg, where are you leaning in this one?
I don't like either of these teams. The one thing Mac Jones has got for them, and this could be a sneaky play, is the Washington defense is atrocious, and everyone's been passing over them like none other. Like, look what your boy Justin Fields did to that Washington defense, right? So I think Mac Jones could have a better day. He's not a great quarterback, but I can see him throwing for 250, 2-3 touchdowns, and getting a good 20-25 points. Also, Washington just lost Chase Young to the Niners, and
Montez Sweat.
Right, and it's in New England. I don't know what the weather is up there, but it's never easy to win in Foxborough. And both these teams, like you said, I think both these teams are just not the best quality of teams. I think Washington thought they had a better team than they did. The one thing I will say about Washington, I think Eric Bieniemy has been a big pickup for him because they've actually put up some decent offensive numbers. And it's also showed, too, with Kansas City, the way they've been playing offensively, they've struggled. So I think, if anything, this could be a high-scoring game. But I'm leaning on New England, but I don't know. I mean, it's a toss-up for me. But give me New England, I guess, at home.
Yeah, coin flip game for me goes to the home team in this one. It's going to be a partly cloudy, 54 degrees in Foxborough today, so decent weather up there.
Like, Matt is going to sling it. He's going to
sling it all around. All right, head into the mid-afternoon games, the 3-5 Indianapolis Colts going into the finally getting a win, the 1-6 Carolina Panthers. The Panthers got a win last week, barely squeaked by Houston 15-13. Indianapolis is a 2.5-point favorite on the road in this one. I had to play Gardner Minshew the other day, Greg, and he got me like 37 points. He had 3 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, just did everything on the season. He's already – and I had Anthony Richardson, by the way. And, of course, he got hurt and is out for the season with shoulder surgery. So Gardner Minshew has already taken over. How about this, Greg? In 2 weeks, he's already taken over the leading passing numbers for the Colts, 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks. Bryce Young, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions for the Carolina Panthers. Moss is your leading running back for the Colts. Still don't know what's going on with Jonathan Taylor out there. I don't know if he's still unhappy or they're just not giving him the ball when he's on the field. I don't know. Maybe he's just getting himself back into the swing of things there. 5 touchdowns from Moss, by the way. Michael Pittman Jr., 3 touchdowns through the air. Hubbard is your leading rusher for the Panthers, 270 yards, 1 touchdown. Adam Thielen is your leading receiver for the Panthers, 4 touchdowns through the air. Everyone's relatively healthy on offense. Josh Downs is questionable for the Colts. And, of course, I have him on fantasy. Had to play him the other day. Minshew found him. He got me like 22 points the other week. So good on that. But he's questionable. That came down yesterday. And everyone on the Panthers is pretty much healthy. DJ Shark is questionable. That came down yesterday. Shark is only owned by 47% of ESPN leagues. Josh Downs is actually owned by 61% of ESPN fantasy leagues. So there you go. Again, Indianapolis, 2.5-point favorite on the road. I'm going to go with the Colts in this one.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me as well because I think Carolina at home off a win. Bryce Young had some confidence there. Carolina's got a decent defense, and the Colts. They've been Jekyll and Hyde, so it really depends which Colts team shows up. If the Colts team that shows up that beat, Baltimore on the road, they'll win. But the Colts have also just laid eggs against like Jacksonville, and I think they lost to Houston too. I think it depends what Colts team shows up, what Gardner Minshew shows up. But I'm leaning on the Colts if both teams play their potential. But I think it'll be a lower scoring game though. But how about Adam Thielen, man? He's been a fantasy wrecker. I have him in one of my leagues, and I have Pittman as well.
Yeah, I have, of course, I have, what's his name, Miles Sanders, who got me a few points early on, but has since quieted himself for the Carolina Panthers. So he is no longer on my fantasy team. So this next matchup, Greg, both of these teams appears to just be in shambles right now. It is the 2-6 New York Football Giants heading into the 3-5 Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders are actually a 1.5 favorite at home in this one. The ESPN Analytics matchup predictor somehow has the New York Giants in this one, 58% to 41.1%. Daniel Jones, just an absolute mess right now. 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Jimmy Garoppolo.
He's back now?
I don't know.
Because Taylor got injured too.
Yeah, they yesterday they placed Tyrod and Darren Waller on IR. So we will see what the Giants do. Obviously, Jimmy Galapagos Islands was just benched. So he is not starting for the Oakland Raiders either. It's just a mess for both of these teams, Greg. And Darren Waller was your leading receiver for the football Giants as well. Only 1 touchdown through the air. And Jimmy G, 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions for the Raiders. If you heard what Josh Jacobs said, he said, it's not my job to fix the offense. Devontae Adams said he would run through a brick wall already for their new head coach. So they just got rid of everybody. And it's just funny to see the Raiders in shambles. Maybe Josh McDaniels will be running back to New England with his tail between his legs and just calling on Papa Bill to bring him back. So it'll be interesting to see. Antonio Pierce, by the way, former Giants linebacker, is the new head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't even know where to go in this one, Greg. This one is just all over the place. I guess Raiders at home. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going with the Giants, and the reason
who's the Raiders starting, by the way? Who's their quarterback now?
Is Jimmy G not even playing this week?
No, they benched him. He's done.
I don't know. But the reason I'm going for the Giants, the reason I'm picking the Giants, I don't cheer for the Giants. The reason I'm picking the Giants is because their defense the last 3 weeks have actually really stepped up and have put great numbers up. So I think it's going to be low scoring. Take the under, whatever the under is. I think it's like 37. I like the under if it is that. It might be lower than that now, but I like the Giants. I think they're gonna win just because of their defense. I think the Raiders. But the one thing the Raiders got going for them is they just fired McDaniels, and maybe they'll fire them up. No pun intended. And maybe they'll play better because there's less just drama and stuff going on. But I like what the Giants have been playing defensively. Like, they put up 22 against the Jets last week. They held Buffalo to 12 points, lost, but they played them well. So.
Yeah, so the new starting quarterback for the Raiders is Aiden O'Connell, rookie quarterback.
Barkley had a good week last week, so look out for Barkley. I think he's playing much better. Sorry, I just remembered that.
Yeah, so Aiden O'Connell, 313 yards. He did go in for Jimmy G last week, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. So not a good, I guess, showing, but he is a rookie. He was a 4th-round pick this year by the Raiders, so he is your new starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. So I guess I got the Raiders at home. Like you said, maybe firing all these people will clean some things up. And again, Antonio Pierce, former Giants linebacker, is your interim head coach for the Raiders. So you go Giants, I go Raiders. I think both teams are a mess, so I don't even know. I don't like either team in this one. So
the Giants at least are playing. It's not like they don't have any motivation. They just have a lot of injuries.
Yeah. And Daniel Jones is suspect at quarterback to begin with. So, yeah, I don't know. All right, NFC matchup, big NFC matchup here, Greg. The 5-2 Cowboys go into the 7-1 Philadelphia Eagles, and this is just a media dream. This NFC East matchup. Philadelphia only a 3-point favorite at home, and the matchup predictor for ESPN Analytics, Greg, pretty close. Dallas is at 49.7, Eagles 49.9. Dak 1,600 yards, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He had a really good game last week in the victory for the Cowboys. I have him in fantasy as well, and he got me 38 points last week.
Who did they beat last week?
They beat the Rams 43-20.
Yeah.
Dak had 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. So he, finally balled out like everyone's waiting for him to. Obviously, Jalen Hurts, 2,100 yards through the air, 13 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Tony Pollard, a lot was going to be put on his shoulders this year, Greg, being the mainstay at running back for Dallas. And again, he is their leading rusher, obviously, 420 yards, 2 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb, 3 touchdowns through the air. A.J. Brown, 5 touchdowns. And Swift for the Eagles, 3 touchdowns on the ground. Everyone pretty healthy for the Cowboys, Greg. Only one guy on their injury report, and that is Tyron Smith, their big offensive tackle. He is questionable. And for the Eagles, only really one on their offensive side is Boston Scott. He is out, the running back. And Grant, I don't know how to pronounce this dude's last name. Salaterra is out, their tight end, who's only owned by 13% of ESPN Fantasy Leagues anyway. And our former homeboy, how about this? I haven't seen this name in years, Greg. Bradley Roby. I didn't even know he was still playing. He's out for the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's going to be a good matchup, Greg. I don't understand. I guess NFL is going to do what they do, but I'm surprised the NFL didn't put this game in prime time. It's a 2:25 kickoff Mountain Time. Kind of weird there. Everyone's kind of waiting for these type of division matchups, especially both teams playing well. But I'm going to go with Philly at home. I think they're just a little bit better offensively, and I think they're better defensively, and I think that's what's going to win the Eagles the game today.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're better defensively. I think the Cowboys got the edge there, but since it's at home,
well, without Diggs, I think the Cowboys' defensive is.
Yeah, but they still have a pretty darn good team, especially with Micah Parsons and that whole bunch there. But
he's playing out of his mind.
If the Cowboys had lost last week, I would have picked the Cowboys to win this week. But since they won big last week, the Cowboys are going to Cowboys. They're going to do what they do, and they are so Jekyll and Hyde. I feel like after a loss, they have a big win, but after a big win, they lay an egg. So I like the Eagles actually to win this as well.
Yeah, and at home, yeah, like you said, the Cowboys are coming off a big win. It seems like
these two teams will split. I think the Cowboys will get them at home, but
yeah. So we will see what happens there. All right, so we agree on the Eagles there. Buffalo. This is going to be a fascinating matchup. The 5-3 Bills go into the 4-3 Cincinnati Bengals. It is going to be an emotional game because this is where the site took place with DeMar Hamlin last season. So we will see what happens there. Obviously, Josh Allen, 2,100 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, only 8 picks. Joe Burrow seems to have turned his season around for the better. 10 touchdowns, 4 picks, 1,500 yards. Cook on the ground for the Bills, 1 touchdown on the season. Joe Mixon. 2 touchdowns, Stephon Diggs, 6 touchdowns through the air. Jamar Chase, who is always effing open, by the way, 4 touchdowns through the air for Cincinnati. Cincinnati is in a 2.5-point favorite in this one. Both teams relatively healthy. All injuries for the Bills is on the defensive side. And if you're looking, Joe Mixon, by the way, is questionable. He's a game-time decision in this one. Everyone else healthy on both teams. Where are you leaning towards this one, Gary? I want to hear your opinion first. Obviously, this is the Sunday night game. It's going to be an emotional game. Where are you leaning?
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. I'm leaning the Bengals because the last 2 or 3 times the Bengals and Bills have met, the Bengals have really owned them. I think the Bengals are playing better as a whole. They've been more consistent the last 3 weeks, where Buffalo's had some areas where they've stumbled or they just haven't really looked in sync yet. So I like the Bengals until Buffalo proves me that they can beat Cincinnati. But right now, Cincinnati has Buffalo's number. So I like Cincinnati.
Yeah, and you mentioned last 3 weeks for Cincinnati. Obviously, you're going to beat Arizona, but 2 huge wins against Seattle and in San Francisco, getting a huge win, 31-17. Big win there for the Cincinnati Bengals in Santa Clara out there in California. So, yeah, I think I'm going to agree. Cincinnati coming off, getting their season turned around after starting out 0-2, have just been on track now. I think Joe Burrow, after getting that extension, everyone was kind of, side-eyeing him because of the extension he got, and then coming out and laying a couple eggs at the beginning of the season has since really turned things around for the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, it's going to be an emotional night, Sunday night game in Cincinnati, in the jungle. And again, this is where the DeMar Hamlin stuff took place last year. So we'll see what they do before the game in that one. So moving to the Monday night game, Greg, this is going to be another barn burner as the 3-4 LA Chargers head into the 4-3 New York Jets. Obviously, when you look at quarterback matchup, Justin Herbert is, I don't know if he's leaps and bounds ahead of Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson kind of keeping the Jets afloat, though, after coming in for Aaron Rodgers at the beginning of the season. Him and his hot mom will be traveling. There you go. Picture of him right there. They will be traveling to the Meadowlands to play this one. Zach Wilson, 5 touchdowns, 5 picks. Were you surprised, by the way, that the Jets didn't make a move or something for a veteran quarterback to start?
Not necessarily, because I'm looking at it right now. They could still make the playoffs. In order to do that, you probably have to give up whether it's picks or money. So, I think they knew what they had, and so in this game, I'm leaning towards the Chargers. It hasn't really been Zach Wilson really carrying the team so much, the defense, but it'll be an interesting game. I think it'll be low scoring. I do like. I think the Jets are a better coached team. The Chargers, I don't know what it is, but they, talent wise, they should be like an elite team. But they just there's a lot of head scratchers that go on among that team. But the Chargers are off I forget who they beat last week, but they had a pretty convincing win by Bears. That's right. But they really took care of them. I like Herbert. I think he's just a better quarterback. I like the weapons that they have. Austin Eckler is now healthy, so I like the Chargers. But I think it'll be low scoring. I think it'll be close, but I think the Chargers will get it.
Yeah, by the way, that Jets defense has only given up just under 14 points per game so far through this season. So pretty good. The only one that scored, Greg, above 20 was the Broncos, and the Jets still beat them 31-21. KC got 23 on them in a loss, but there you go. Again, even the Chargers on the matchup predictor by ESPN Analytics have Chargers heavily winning this game. I don't know if it's going to be, like you said, I think it's going to be low scoring. The Jets defense is pretty darn good. Fantasy wise, everyone's pretty healthy for both of these teams. Alan Lazard is questionable for the Jets. He's only owned by 47% of ESPN leagues. And Joshua Palmer, the only guy on the Chargers, and he's only owned by 16%. He is out. Keenan Allen, Eckler, Herbert, they're all like tier 1 fantasy starting guys. Breece Hall, probably a starter, especially against this Chargers defense. I don't know where you like Hall in this one, Greg. Garrett Wilson, 2 touchdowns through the air. A lot of people were expecting a big year for Garrett Wilson, but I think since the injury to Aaron Rodgers, that kind of has slowed his pace down a little bit. But how about this, Greg? I'm going to go with the Jets at home in Monday Night Football.
Yeah, there you go. Good pick.
So
we disagree, but good.
Yeah, I wanted to see where you went first before I made the pick there. But, yeah, I think it'll be a good Monday night game. Again, it might come down to making a pass, Greg, and Justin Herbert is just, again, maybe not leaps and bounds above Zach Wilson, but he is the better quarterback.
Right. No, I agree. It'll be an interesting game. It'll be interesting to see what the Jets defense can do to contain Herbert, and with Eckler being back, I think is a huge plus for the Chargers that'll help them down the stretch.
Yeah. By the way, if you're wondering what the Kansas City score is, it's
21-0.
Yeah, halftime. Kansas City all over the Miami Dolphins, 21-0 in this one, and this is were you expecting this kind of game? Were you expecting a close game or a shootout? Or what kind of game were you expecting in this?
I was expecting more of a shootout, which still could happen. And there's a whole other half to play. But the one thing about Miami is a team that when they play a team that they should beat, they destroy them. When they play a team that is a little bit more superior, like the Chiefs or Buffalo, for some reason they struggle mightily. So I don't know what it is there, but there's something going on there.
Yeah, and of course, Rashee Rice, a 11-yard touchdown reception from Patrick Mahomes. Of course, I bench Rice.
I did too.
This week.
I did too.
Jerick McKinnon has a 17-yard pass from Patrick Mahomes, and then the Chiefs got a 59-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown. Now that was Brian Cook on defense for the Chiefs. So there you go.
I benched him, but I had Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb and Kareem Hunt in those slots. So.
Oh, yeah, not bad guys to fill in. If you're wondering what Miami's doing offensively, Tua 11 for 18, 89 yards. Jalen Waddle 1 touch for 12 yards. Tyreek Hill 5 catches for 39 yards. Sam Moore 2 catches for 33 yards. Isaiah Pacheco 10 carries for 41 yards. And Patrick Mahomes 14 of 19, 147 yards, 2 touchdowns at halftime. So that is what's going on over in Dutchland. So that is happening right now in the NFL halftime between the Chiefs and the Dolphins. So, yeah, I mean, going to be an interesting Week 9 matchup here in the NFL, Greg. Obviously, a lot of basketball and hockey going on as well. And I think it was, when was it? The game 4 or 5 of the World Series, Greg, was I forgot what the stat was, so I'm not even going to bring it up. But it was the first time in I don't know how many years. Oh, man, I don't remember it. I'm going to have to find it. But obviously, when the World Series is going on, you have all 4 major sports playing at one time. I think they call it like the sports mecca or something like that, where all 4 professional sports are playing at the exact same time, which is always fun for true sports fans. So there you go.
Yeah.
But that is going to do it for us here on the Wheelhouse. Want to thank Greg for filling in for Matt this morning. Again, go to all socials and stuff like that. Go to our home base at e5280sports.com. All the podcasts, all the video podcasts, I think they're called VODs. Is that what video podcasts are called? VODs?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably.
Sure.
Pods.
Why not? Like the E5280 Sports Facebook page or on Instagram at Elevation5280 Radio. You can follow me on Instagram if you want. I don't post anything at SportsJunkie25. You can follow Greg at Greggles8733. Follow us on X. Gonna give it to you at 5280 Sports Radio. At Michael Spillin. Greg, I don't know if you check Twitter anymore. At Greg Johns 2010.
No.
Yes. Give him a follow anyway, and I'll always subscribe to our YouTube channel as well at 5280 Sports Radio. So thank you for watching, listening, commenting as well. But that's going to do it for us here. For Greg Johnson, I am Michael Spillin. We will talk to you next week.
Peace.